Friends, fellow humans, lend me your ears and your eyeballs, because things, as they say, are officially messed up. 2025 isn't the future we were promised. It's not flying cars and robot butlers. It's a dumpster fire fueled by our own inaction. Yeah, it's bleak, but ignoring it won't make it go away. We're facing a global crisis cocktail. Ingredients: a dash of environmental disaster, a heaping spoonful of political instability, and a generous sprinkle of technological risks and genetic monopolization, and pandemics. Oh, and don't forget the economic inequality and public health crises for a truly bitter aftertaste. You won't hear about this on your regularly scheduled programming, though. The powers that be, those lovely folks in charge, they'd rather you stay glued to whatever reality show or political mudslinging keeps you distracted. But the truth? It's time to change the channel. This isn't about left versus right, it's about right versus wrong. And right now, staying silent, that's wrong. We need a global wake-up call. We need to demand better. We need action. Let's talk numbers, folks. There are over 8 billion of us crammed onto this pale blue dot. 8 billion mouths to feed, bodies to clothe, and thirst to quench. The problem is, Earth's resources, they are not multiplying like rabbits. Water's becoming more precious than a backstage pass to a Beyoncé concert. Food security? It's not an app on your phone, and don't even get me started on the energy demands of 8 billion and counting. Climate change isn't helping matters. It's like the universe's way of saying, hey, you're overstocked. Droughts, floods, and extreme weather events are wreaking havoc on our ability to produce and distribute essential resources. The result? Increased competition, tensions, and yes, even conflict. Because when people are desperate, they do desperate things, and that's a recipe for global instability no one wants to taste. Imagine being forced to flee your home. Not for a vacation, but because staying means risking your life. That's the reality for over 120 million people worldwide. War, persecution, and the devastating effects of climate change are turning millions into refugees. Families ripped apart, futures shattered, hope hanging by a thread. These aren't just numbers on a screen. They're human beings. The Sudanese civil war, the conflict in the eastern DRC, the ongoing war in Ukraine, these are just a few examples of the conflicts fueling this crisis. And let's not forget the political turmoil and human rights abuses forcing countless others to seek refuge elsewhere. These are not them, they are us. And their plight is a stark reminder of our shared humanity. Remember that whole war is bad thing? Yeah, it turns out that's still true in 2025. From the smouldering ruins of Sudan to the escalating tensions in Eastern Europe, the world is a powder keg waiting for a spark. The Sudanese civil war, entering its third year, is a humanitarian catastrophe. Millions displaced, atrocities rampant, and no end in sight. The eastern DRC is teetering on the brink of a wider regional war, fueled by rebel groups and political instability. And let's not forget the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. A year after the initial invasion, the death toll continues to mount, and the geopolitical ramifications are felt worldwide. These conflicts aren't just regional issues. They destabilize entire regions, disrupt global supply chains, and create breeding grounds for extremism and terrorism. In our interconnected world, peace is not a spectator sport, it's a responsibility we all share. The erosion of rights, where freedoms crumble. Remember those fancy documents, the ones with names like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? Yeah, about those. Turns out they're not as universally respected as you'd hope. From fanatic backward Islamic regime in Iran, with its abysmal record on human rights and the rule of law, to the Taliban's brutal oppression of women in Afghanistan, to the systematic abuses in the dictatorship of North Korea, the world is witnessing a dangerous erosion of fundamental freedoms. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom from torture. These aren't just abstract concepts, they're the bedrock. of a just and equitable society, and when they crumble, we all suffer. The shadow trade, human trafficking in the 21st century. Here's a horrifying thought. Modern-day slavery isn't a relic of the past. It's a thriving global industry. Human trafficking, the buying and selling of human beings for forced labor or sexual exploitation, is a stain on our collective conscience. The statistics are staggering. Millions trapped in forced labor, often hidden in plain sight. Children, particularly girls, are especially vulnerable, preyed upon by traffickers who exploit their innocence and desperation. And let's be clear, this isn't just happening over there, it's happening in our own backyards, in our own communities. It's time to shine a light on this dark underbelly of globalization and demand better protections for the vulnerable. Our planet in peril, the environmental catastrophe. Remember Earth, that giant ball of life that sustains us all? Yeah, we're not exactly treating her with respect. Climate change is no longer a distant threat. It's here, it's real, and it's wreaking havoc across the globe. 2024 was the hottest year on record. Glaciers are melting at an alarming rate, sea levels are rising, and extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and intense. We're talking droughts that decimate crops, floods that displace millions, and wildfires that rage out of control. And let's not forget the mass extinction of species happening at an unprecedented rate. We are, quite literally, killing our planet. Artificial intelligence, promise or peril? Artificial intelligence! It's the buzzword du jour, promising to revolutionize everything from healthcare to transportation. But here's the thing about revolutions, they can be messy. AI has the potential to solve some of our biggest challenges, but it also poses significant risks. Job displacement, algorithmic bias, privacy violations, the rise of autonomous weapon systems. These are just a few of the potential downsides of unchecked AI development. We need to proceed with caution, ensuring that AI is developed and deployed ethically and responsibly, because the last thing we need is a robot uprising to add to our already overflowing plate of global problems. A better way forward, a call to action. All right, folks, deep breath, it's heavy stuff, I know. But here's the good news, we're not powerless, we can change course. But it requires action, bold, decisive, collective action. First, we need to demand accountability. From our leaders, from corporations, from ourselves, we need to elect officials who prioritize the well-being of people and the planet over corporate profits and political maneuvering. We need to hold corporations accountable for their environmental and social impacts. Second, we need to embrace sustainable practices, reduce, reuse, recycle, support renewable energy, consume less, conserve more. Small changes multiplied by millions can have a significant impact. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, we need to rediscover our shared humanity. Empathy, compassion, understanding, these are not weaknesses, they are our greatest strengths. We are all interconnected. What affects one of us affects us all. The time for apathy is over. The time for action is now. Let's build a better future together. Hold our representatives accountable and demand democratic liberty, justice, and freedom. Shasha 2025